Precious Objects, an exploration of material culture. The project was defined as people bringing me objects that they've had a long time, that have special meaning, and that they would not or could not replace if they lost. The participants were more often than not strangers. In most cases, I did not know what they were bringing. They stood in front of my large format film camera and were simply photographed. They were all lit similarly. Once photographed, they were asked to write a few sentences about their choice. In an exhibition, this writing takes equal position to the photographs themselves. In fact, in many cases, the photographs are meaningless without the subject's writing. The writing came to reveal intimate pieces of people's personal histories. Coming forward to participate reflected a personal generosity on the subject's part that many of us cannot even aspire to. A friend of mine owns a Rolleiflex that originally belonged to Francis Wolff, the founder of Blue Note Records. Many of the great photographs in the history of jazz music were taken with this camera. She asked me what was my most prized possession. I had no answer. This got me thinking. What do things mean? Are they more than their material value, their beauty, or just stuff we consume? After all, in a consumer society, we are led to believe that accumulating things is an objective in life. So I set off to see if there really was a difference between things with special meaning and contemporary consumer culture. I started by posing friends in front of my 8x10 camera and creating these very large films. Using the large camera would allow me to cut the object out and enlarge it as well. One of my first subjects, Chen, brought me the perfume bottle from her first romance. It was a lovely thing. I then began photographing perfume counters in department stores around town. I would sneak in with my little digital camera and photograph until some helpful clerk offered to help me, at which point I would mumble something about my wife and a gift, and then get myself out of there. I tried some of these collages. They were confused, really not all that interesting. It is not unusual for a project to get stuck at this point. Sensing more, I continued working. Soon my subjects were bringing increasingly personal stories. The second breakthrough came when I created an opportunity to photograph subjects in Houston. The Houston Center of Photography generously helped, and two of their instructors allowed me the use of their Houston Skyline photo studio. I solicited friends and friends of friends who lived in Houston, listings on Craigslist, a flyer at the Houston Center of Photography, and virtually everything I could think of to be part of Precious Objects. I traipsed down with my large format camera and spent the day, actually 2 days. Suddenly, I was confronting complete strangers. In my studio, I had been photographing friends, or their family, or people that I had at least met. Now I was getting people who had no idea who I was or what I was really doing. They had a story to tell. I love stories, and these brought Precious Objects to life. I continued to photograph in my studio, and building on the experience in Houston, held sessions at Mason Muir Gallery in Atlanta, a rented studio in Los Angeles, the Quaker Meeting House in Manhasset, New York, the African American Museum in Hempstead, New York, the Ohio History Connection in Columbus, Ohio, and at Stone Gardens, a senior center in Beechwood, Ohio. Now I was getting a much more diverse group of subjects. I almost never knew what people would bring. If they asked, I would discourage easily replaceable things. Cell phones, laptops, a prized bicycle. Often they would ask me about living things. Obviously, you love your family more than you love any of your stuff. That was not the point. Occasionally, a guy would suggest a body part. Pets were another favorite. I told the people that wanted to bring living things that if they wanted to have them taxidermied, I would be happy to include them. No one took me up on that, particularly the guys with the body parts. The photographs do not follow the rules of classical portraiture. They almost could have been done in a photo booth. Everyone was lit the same. I really didn't know the stories, and again, often didn't know the people. There was no real effort made for me to interpret how the people looked. People would ask how they should dress. I refused to answer. So they came in jackets and ties and formal, lovely women's attire, and in sweatshirts and jeans, sometimes wearing their socks only. How people came to participate tells a lot about who they are, or at least a lot about who they want us to think they are. The overall collection is not about what I think, nor is it even about the objects. It is about these people with integrity and courage to share their most intimate feelings with strangers. In doing so, they allow us to better know what it is to be human, to question our own assumptions about our role as parents, as children, as friends, and as citizens. They are also about the inevitable separation from others that we care about. There are many ways to look at these portraits. Sometimes it's the story, and the photograph is merely an illustration of the story. Often the writing looks like the person or object, a bit like the idea that people grow to look like their pets. What part did I have in this other than coming up with the idea and schlepping a lot of equipment around the country? When I bring the portraits and writing together and choose them for an exhibition or for the book, Precious Objects becomes about my values. That's not to say that the people who are not chosen, either for an exhibition or for the book, are unimportant to the project. They are. Everyone's contribution taught me something. That is why this video, a step back from my choices to the richness of the entire work. I am humbled by the stories of the 170 people or so in this project. Loli's letters written by the mother she never knew, Travis's inmate card from prison and his current library card because he wanted to show the world how far he'd come, Grace's little stuffed dog who more than survived being laundered after her scarlet fever. As time passes, another level of meaning has been added to this project, a personal relationship between these subjects, heretofore strangers or near strangers, has emerged. These people are my friends. I hope they are yours as well.